What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Tully Television, and today we're going to be talking Book of Boba Fett, Episode 5, The Return of the Mandalorian. But before we get into all that, I want to thank everyone who's been coming by and watching, subscribing, hitting all on that bell notification, sharing, liking, all that beautiful stuff. If you have yet to subscribe, I hope today is the day that I earn your subscription. Set a little red bar down below. Let's try to build this community together, guys. Only through working together can we get our channel into the YouTube algorithm so more people can come across our community. But yeah, let's get into it. Episode 5 of Book of Boba Fett, Return of the Mandalorian. Directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, written by Jon Favreau and Noah Clore. Stars Ming-Na Wen as Fancy Shand, Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin Mando, Mandalorian, Emily Swallow as the Armorer, and Amy Sedaris as Peli Motto. Those are the main characters in this episode. Tamaru Morrison, who plays Boba Fett, is credited, but he's not in this episode on any sort of level at all. So there's that. Basically, this opens up with Din Djarin settling a bounty that he was hired for. He went to go collect the bounty. Very reminiscent of kind of how the first episode of season one opened. This was him coming into some sort of meatpacking facility with the person he was looking for in the back playing some sort of cards with his crew, so to speak. He owed money to somebody. Um, Mando said it wasn't his business to who. He was just there to take him in hot or cold. Um, of course, in the world of Star Wars, nothing ever goes easy. So Mando has to fight his way through these guys in order to even get close to the bounty. And this is where we see him using the dark saber, um, and you can still. It was a great scene because when he used on his enemies, it was really the special effects on the sword and how it was used were very well done. You can tell that a lot of the budget had went into this episode because even with some of the where he had to go to claim his money or his information, you could tell that that was a lot of uh, special effects heavy scene. But anyway, you can tell that he still needs training with the dark saber because he hasn't really used a weapon like that too much from as far as what we've seen. Um, he basically wanted up beheading the guy that he needed to collect the bounty on. Uh, Took the head to the person that hired him. At some point, he had accidentally cut his leg with the dark saber, and much like a lightsaber, um, it cauterizes itself, it seals itself up. But it was a pretty nasty cut on his leg. He goes, settles up the job, and what he got instead of any type of credit or money was information on where his clan was. Because if we remember near the end of season one, the armor and those Mandalorians, that clan, helped him escape. with the child, but had to take off. Now it's just basically the armorer, and let me make sure I got the other name right. Has Vizsla. Um, those are pretty much the only two Mandalorians left in his clan. He was able to figure out where to look for the ultraviolet marks. He had to put a certain frequency on with his helmet in order to see these invisible to the naked eye markings. So finally, he made his way to the armorer. Uh, it was good to see her. She's a I like the character, very stoic, very, seems like there's a presence about this character that you definitely want to learn more from. She asks how he got injured. He shows her the dark saber. He explains to her what's been going on. He explains that he won it from uh, Gideon, Amaz Gideon, and they brought him back to the Republic to be questioned. He also said he ran into Bo-Katan and that group of Mandalorians, and she explains to Mando that how she lost her way because the dark saber was given to her and not won in battle like it's supposed to, and then when it's given to you without earning it, it leads to a cursed interaction with the dark saber, which led to the destruction of the planet Mandalore in a night called A Night of a Thousand Tears, where all the Mandalorians basically had to scatter to the wind, as the armorer called it, and she blames Catan there for that because of not uh, winning the dark saber as she was supposed to. Because when you win it in battle, you're then the leader of the Mandalorian people. So currently, if you look at it, Din Djarin is the leader of the Mandalore people, but as we'll see in a few minutes, that could be a bit of a problem. Um, as she's giving this back information to us about the dark saber, about her people, has Vizsla, who's a descendant of the one of the holders of the dark saber from back in the day, says he's challenging to wield the dark saber because he it needs to be back with his family, his people. Um, as he's fighting Mando for it, you can see he also has a problem handling the sword, the saber, so to speak. It gets heavy in his hand, and you can also tell, even with Din Djarin, it's heavy in his hand too. Finally, Din Djarin wins, but at the end of the fight, the armorer asks them both if they revealed their face, if they removed the helmet, and Mando was honest, and she basically kicked him out of the Mandalorian group there because, in their view, they're not supposed to reveal their face to anybody for any reason, life-threatening situation or not. Uh, Even more so, you're not supposed to. Then you know what I mean, like the harder it gets to not show your face, the more you're supposed to not show your face almost. Like that's the train of thought on it. Um, and he leaves not so much in physical defeat, but moral defeat. You can tell he's physically uh, feeling down about this. He's now a man without a people, and he decides to take uh, basically a trip back to Tatooine. Maybe in his head, figure out how to restart his life, I guess. And as he goes on, oh, and I kind of skipped a couple things there real quick. While he was there with the armor, she asks him about the Veskar spear. He says it was given to him um, because he mentioned he ran into a few of the Jedi. Ahsoka had given him the spear, and he explained how Grogu was given to one of his people as well, who we know as Luke Skywalker. But she said that the spear is not a good idea because the metal is supposed to protect the Mandalorians, and if using the spear, the Veskar metal can pierce the Veskar armor. So think of it if you're like a Wolverine fan, his claws ain't going to be able to get cut by anyone or anything unless it's also adamantium. So it's going to be kind of like it needs to be on that same level to do damage. And so that's when he asks her to melt it down and make something for Grogu, which winds up being in a little handkerchief and some kind of. We kind of know that we're going to run into Grogu in the next episode after this episode because there's been multiple references to him. And even as he's looking at the package that the armor put his whatever in that she melted down, it kind of looks like the shape of his head. So that's what's going on too. He's trying to bring this Feskar armor, I'm assuming, to Grogu, but he needs a ship. So that's what prompts him to go to Tatooine to meet with what was it, Pele Motto, the lady that's been on and off as a supporting character in the Mandalorian series. She's basically the spaceship mechanic with the little droids. So he goes there and he buys a ship from her, thinking it was going to be a Razor Crest. But it was some old pod racing ship that she modified, and she said you should be good because it's not really like registered in the traditional ways and stuff, and it's going to be super fast for you. I modded it out, and it's basically she gave him NOS for space, nitrous for space, space nitrous. Um, he was iffy about it, but helped her build it. And after they built it, a really nice looking ship. If you remember how in episode one, uh, the ship Anakin was riding in near the end of the movie was yellow. This one has the same shape to it, but it's all like silver, like a silver look to it, or gray look to it, however you wanna phrase that. A metal look. Um, so he decides to go give it a test ride, and man, does that whole ass that ship. He's going through trenches and he's doing like little flippy doos and uh, doing where you almost hit the mountain but you don't type of move, and really just opening it up. And he goes to the atmosphere of Tatooine, and we see him getting pulled over by that sergeant or what or I'm gonna call him like the equivalent of a sergeant from the first couple episodes that were the one that helped him out with being on the ice planet with the spiders. That fella. He pulls him over and he's just asking him random questions, and Bobo was just like, "Oh well, yeah, I'm just opening her up and test driving her and this and that," and then he just takes off because he winds up realizing he's not going to be able to give him the information they're asking for, and him and the young guy that works for the um that's asking him the question. It's just like, should we report this? And I was like, no, because it's going to be paperwork all day for nothing. It's let him go. Uh, but it's just a little callback to that character, and he comes back with the ship, and he's like basically like, yeah, I'll take it or whatever, and um, great job type of thing. And then that's when Pele was like, well, while you were gone, a friend of yours stopped by, but I held her out, to the front because I didn't know who she was or what the situation was. And he's like, who's looking for me here or whatever? No one's gonna really know I'm here. And she's like, I don't know, dude. Like, I don't know her either. And you kind of starting to think maybe, who is this? And the next second we see Fenty um, Ming Na Wan when jumping down from the ceiling of the little building there, and she's just like, you know, I'm good at escaping. But basically, Mando's like, no, all right, I know her, and so they get into talking, and she asks Mando if he's willing to help Boba Fett, um, basically get a hold of, basically just team up against the Pike Syndicate and that storyline that's been building up the last 3 or 4 episodes before this one. And he basically agrees to it, but then says under one condition, and that's if we go and deliver this to my friend first. And it's the again reference to the Feskir metal that was melted down from to make him. I'm assuming an armor, an armor suit for him with some sort of protection for his body. Um, and basically check on his training. So I'm really curious if this episode 6 is going to be something in which we see Luke Skywalker again. We're gonna sounds like we're gonna see Grogu again, unless something happens in the next episode where uh, they're not at where he was expecting them to be at, and preventing that meeting until season 3 of Mandalorian, just so then Boba Fett, the season for Boba Fett can finish up. Because I think this is going to be the only season for Boba Fett offhand. I haven't heard anything yet about confirmation for season 2. Um, I'm going to give this particular episode, um, for the episode itself, I liked it. It was great action. It was great. If you didn't know much about the history of the dark saber, the people of Mandalore, it was a great catch up and learning experience to learn a lot of Star Wars lore. I will say that I love Star Wars, especially the OG trilogy, but I'm not as versed in the lore as maybe some other people are. That people that have read the books or the comic books and stuff like that, or I mean, I've played some of the games, but um, I will say that there's probably people a little bit more knowledgeable about Star Wars lore than I. So there might have been a lot of people that were. This was just a waste of time episode for them. For me, it was a filler episode, but um, it's it was supposed to set up Boba Fett's story or continue setting up Boba Fett's story, so it kind of threw it off. That's my main complaint is that this whole episode was like a bookend season premiere. You know how people try to do a backdoor pilot You watch a show for 5 years, and then all of a sudden, one episode concentrates on just the neighbors of the people you've been following for 5 years. Well, that's a backdoor pilot because they're hoping to expand the universe, of that popularity. If you think of Archie Bunker, the Jeffersons was off of that. You know what I mean? Uh, that's a backdoor pilot when the Jeffersons came and gave a what have you to Archie to open his eyes up. And that was a backdoor pilot for the Jeffersons to then get their own show. This was a backdoor, not a pilot, but a season premiere because it caught up everything of the Mandalorian, Din Djarin, but had nothing to do with Boba Fett and his show that this is on. So I'm a bit aggravated at that. However, um, that's about the major complaints I have of the episode. But the episode itself was good to see uh, Mando back. It was interesting to see what he was up to during these last few whatever have you weeks, months, or whatever since Grogu got left with Luke. We learn why the difficulty with the dark saber is that if you're not uh, the bond between sword and the user, they must be in unison of their feeling and intent. And if they're not in unison with each other, then it's going to be more difficult to wield the saber. That's why there's a difficulty in wielding the saber because Din Djarin is not in unison with the energy of the sword yet. So I'm assuming that's going to be a thing for season three. And the only way for him to become a Mandalorian again is to swim in the waters of the planet Mandalore and do something there. So that might be another thing that they follow in season three. I'm hoping that this Grogu episode is just going to be like, oh, this is what Grogu's doing. But we're not bringing him back yet because it can't be the Grogu channel 24 hours a day. Because if it's now the Grogu show, it's going to be a lot of money to have to keep doing Luke's face like this. And, if you're unwilling to recast. And so you got to pick and choose what you want to do with certain things at this point. Um, but yeah, great action scenes, great learning experience about the Saber and the Mandalorian people. And I would give this episode a 9 out of 10 just for the fact that visually it looked great. Um, I like Pedro Pascal as Din Djarin. Uh, if you separate some of the controversy from that show involving Carano and Pasquale with their tweets or however you look at them. Uh, I'm a big Gina Carano fan. I'm kind of sad that she was let go. Um, Cara Dune was a great character. I hope to see her back. But it was, I also like Pedro Pascal. Um, yeah, outside of this being a filler episode, it was a great season premiere of The Mandalorian. Um, I'm really interested in seeing how um, Din and Boba Fett work together again. I think it's going to be dope to see them working together again. And I'm getting excited for, I think we're only at two more episodes now, because I think this is a 7 episode series. So it's really shaping up now to um, be a badass last 2 episodes because if you look at it, Boba Fett is going to have uh, Din Djarin. He's going to have Scartana. He's going to have the Star Wars Space Rangers, Power Rangers with him. Um, you know, Fences Shand with him. He's got the Rancor. So he's really coming together. Uh, the series has been uh, some ups, a couple downs. I'm still having faith that this show is going to finish off strong. It did aggravate me about the filler episode, though, because you didn't really you kind of took the story away from Boba Fett a little bit, the momentum. But if this is what we got in its place, I can be satisfied for the time being. Um, but I don't really want that to be a habit for this show or for other shows, because then just do a one shot special for that character. Don't take something away that can advance this person's story just to throw in someone else's story and have it really not advance who the story is named after anyway. But that's my thoughts on Boba Fett, episode 5, The Return of the Mandalorian. Um, Thank you again for stopping by. Uh, Hit that subscribe button down below, guys. I'll stop busting chops. I hope you all have a great day. Peace, Snookums.